These scenarios aren't ones I've thrown in randomly, but have been tested a lot. These playlists have been set up so you can play them as intended or on a one-on-one technique, where you play each scenario only once. They're set up in different days, where static is one day, pokeball is another, smoothness, and lastly reactive. And on the 5th day, you have something special. I really wanted to set these up so it doesn't matter what game you play. I want to create good overall mouse control for you. Now, let's go through them and see how they're set up. All playlists are roughly 40 minutes to 1 hour long. Codes will be in the description below. The static playlist is something I've been playing with a lot, and I made this playlist for maybe a month. It's really set up in the opposite way of which is normally recommended. Now, if you're interested how to play static properly or the way that I play, I would recommend checking out this video right here. Most people would say start big and go slower and slower. Here we're starting extra small to big, and then back down to small. And this is a common theme all throughout these playlists, because I don't want your brain to learn a specific way of aim training. I don't want you to play only small scenarios and get used to the accuracy and not get the speed advantage of things. So we switch to speed and then back down to smaller ones. Here you're kind of spicing things up, so your brain isn't just focused on accuracy all the time. For static, you also have a one-on-one speed variant. This is not to be overlooked. Don't just read speed and say, oh, I shouldn't be playing this. It's very good. Here we come to the bread and butter target switching playlist. This scenario is set up slightly different than most target switching scenarios. When playing target switching, I prefer most of my targets straight in front of me. As low as time to kill as possible is optimal. And a lot of this target switching is actually pokeball. This will really help you with under or over flicking issues. So here we're doing a lot of varied stuff. Either smaller targets, robotic targets, which really help you visualize an enemy, or bigger targets to get that little bit of speed in there. Overall, if you want one playlist to improve, this would be it. Day 3 is smoothness. Now, if you're unfamiliar with smoothness, it makes your aim glued to your target, which is a really underrated way to use smoothness. Because if you look at a lot of good aimers, especially in games like Counter-Strike or even Shroud in PUBG, you can see that their smoothness is on point. Think of it like this. If you can perfectly track your enemy's head at all times, then you can decide exactly when to click. And that's really the foundation of where this playlist has been set up. We're starting off with some precision tracking, long strafes, and going through some movement scenarios. Just be sure not to fall off in the last 5 seconds. Check out my movement guide here to see which style of movement you should be going for, depending on which game you main. Going back to some precision, again spicing things up, letting your brain learn something. You might be asking yourself, why do we go from precision tracking to long strafes back to precision? And as I said, this is because your brain gets easily used to the movement of the bot. It's good to break habits so your brain is forced to learn new stuff. I don't want your brain getting used to the pattern of long strafes over and over again. It should be challenging itself. After that, we have some scenarios that focus on smoothness but have slight reactive elements to them. If you only want 2 playlists, I would just play target switching and smoothness. It will get you very far. Another small tip is I would recommend taking a 2 to 3 minute break in the middle of the playlist. Say the playlist is 1 hour, take a 5-minute break at the 30-minute mark, or take breaks randomly. This again to spice things up, because your brain gets really used to doing one movement with the mouse and learning the bot. Lastly, we're going to the reactive playlist. I've spent a long time, the longest of them all, focusing on the reactive playlist. It's a very unique skill. A lot of scenarios from playlists out there, I believe, focus completely on the wrong thing. Reactive should be focused on micro adjustments. Smoothness should be focused on the strafing part. But nonetheless, we have both in here. Similar to the other ones, we're changing things up. And what you'll see here, often than not, is we have a scenario like mid-range fast strafes, and then we have a harder version of the same scenario, mid-range short strafes. This is to get you used to the movement of the bot, as opposed to the other scenarios where we don't want you to get used to it. Here, we're conditioning your brain to learn to react. It can be good to start off a little bit easier and then do the harder version. As I said before, you can do all of these on the one-on-one technique, or as I said, all of them are roughly 50 minutes long. But now we played 4 days. There's still 3 more days left on the week. Here's what I would recommend. Let's say you're maining Valorant. I would then choose to play target switching playlist. If you're maining Apex, I might play this Smoothness playlist on day 5. Day 6, I would do a couple of different things, and this is all up to you. Either you can put the playlist on random, play a couple of scenarios on static, play a couple scenarios on smoothness, and so on, till you just feel like it. Another option is playing a preset playlist that I have already made for you, which is the Goated playlist, which is my absolute favorite playlist I've ever made. The video to this will be in the top right. I've also made a completely new Goated playlist in a similar style, which includes all aiming styles and is set up very similar to my Goated playlist. All these links will be in the description or in the top right. Lastly, day 7. We're approaching this schedule a lot more like working out, and I believe 1 rest a day isn't bad. This is less so to do with improving and more so to do with you relaxing a little bit. Just play a game that you really enjoy playing. And bonus if it helps with your aim training. Something like Quake, Apex, or any of these types of games will really help. Hope it helps. We're really close to getting 300 subscribers, guys, so hopefully you can help me out. It would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe.